Okay, what is going on, Gridiron fans? I am the Gridiron Guy, and this is my Todd McShay's Top 50 Big Board. What if the best player available went first? Okay, so what we're going to do in this video is I've taken Todd McShay's Top 50 Big Board, and we are going to run through the Big Board. We are not going to skip any players. We're just going to take best player available. So we're just going to start at 1. We're going to go through 32, and we're going to see how this thing shakes out. We're just trying to have some fun here. I know everybody's looking at pretty much the same thing for some of these mock drafts. I figured let's liven it up a little bit. Let's have some fun. Let's send some players to some teams that they wouldn't have ended up with, and let's see how this thing works out. Now, I have looked at this already, so I decided to make one rule, okay? If a player at a position was drafted by that team a year ago, for instance, the Bengals drafted Joe Burrow in the first round last year. So, if it comes up to if the Bengals have a quarterback, we will skip that quarterback and just go to the next player, okay? So, let me reiterate. If a team drafted a player at that position last year, we're going to skip that position, go to the next position down. Okay? So, for instance, if the Bengals are on the board and the best player available is a quarterback, obviously they're not going to draft a quarterback, so we're just going to slide it down 1. This keeps it more interesting and more fun. Believe me, I've already looked at it. It almost fits if we use this rule. Everything kind of fits and works out if we use this one rule. Okay, so for instance, you're going to have the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Chargers. If they all end up with quarterbacks as the best player available, we'll skip the quarterback and go to the next player. Alright? This is going to be a lot of fun. I promise you that. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a like. And I hope you enjoy this video because it's going to be a lot of fun. Alright. With all that being said, Gridiron fans, let's get started. Alright, so I already went through and put in Todd McShay's Top 50 Big Board. So we're going to start. Obviously, the Jaguars would get Trevor Lawrence. Now is when it gets interesting, okay? Instead of the Jets getting Zach Wilson or a quarterback in general, Jamar Chase. Now, remember, this is not what I'm picking. This is not my idea. This is not Todd McShay's idea. This is Todd McShay's Big Board based on his best players available. Okay? Best players available regardless of position. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run through and we're going to take the best player available at every single pick, regardless of position. And we're just going to see how it shakes out in the draft. Okay? So with that being said, let's keep going. Alright. So now we have the 49ers. They're going to take Penei Sewell, number 3. Kyle Pitts to the Falcons. Alright, you guys see what I'm doing here? So now, with my one rule, the Bengals took a quarterback, number 1 overall last year in the first round. We're just doing the first round. If they took somebody at that position in the first round last year, like a franchise quarterback like Joe Burrow, we're going to skip Zach Wilson, and we're going to take Rashawn Slater. Okay? Which means the Dolphins also took a first-round quarterback last year. So Zach Wilson slides again. And the Dolphins take Micah Parsons. Alright, so now the Lions did not take a quarterback in the first round last year. So they get Zach Wilson. Alright, so now number 8 is number 8 overall, Devontae Smith. Broncos take Jalen Waddle. Okay. So now Patrick Surtain to the Cowboys. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to the Giants. You see how this is going? Caleb Farley to the Eagles. Now, Trey Lance is the top one on the board. Based on our one rule, the Chargers took a quarterback in the first round last year. So we're going to skip Trey Lance. We're going to go with Elijah Vera Tucker. Now Trey Lance goes to the Vikings. Okay, so the Patriots take J.C. Horn. Trayvon Moehrig to the Cardinals. Kwity Paye to the Raiders. Okay, so when we get to the end of this, what I'm going to do is I'll go back and we'll look at all the players that got drafted and what teams they got drafted by, and could those players still work at those for those teams. We have to apply our rule here because Justin Fields and Mac Jones are the best players available. And the Dolphins are on the board. They drafted a quarterback last year in the first round. So we skip down to Gregory Rousseau. And then best player available, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. Okay. Basically, I just had that rule in place for the quarterbacks. All other positions, you can use multiple players at positions. Quarterbacks, offensive line, defense in general. But just for the quarterbacks, just to make it interesting, I wanted to apply that rule. Okay, Kadarius Toney to the Colts. Najee Harris to Tennessee. Travis Etienne to the Jets. Jalen Phillips to the Steelers. Zaven Collins to the Bengals. Or to the Jaguars, I mean. Browns get Azeez Ojulari. Tevin Jenkins to the Ravens. Jamin Davis to the Saints. Packers, Greg Newsome. Christian Darrisaw to the Bills. Terrace Marshall. And Nick Bolton to the Bucks. Terrace Marshall to the Chiefs and Nick Bolton goes to the Bucks. Okay, so let's look over this real quick. Alright, so Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars. Makes sense. Makes sense, obviously. Jamar Chase to the Jets. Okay, that's great, but now the Jets need a quarterback still, but they have one of the best wide receivers or possibly the best wide receiver in the draft. Based on Todd McShay's top 50, the best player in the draft, right? Best player available. San Francisco would take Penei Sewell, probably bump him into guard, right? Atlanta Falcons would take Kyle Pitts. Now, remember, this is all best player available. We just went right through the list. We only applied our one rule. Alright, so the Bengals would take Rashawn Slater. A lot of this so far is kind of making sense. Like, yeah, the Falcons taking a tight end, especially Kyle Pitts, and pair him with, you know, the plethora of wide receivers they already have, and, you know, Matt Ryan. You know, who says they have to pick their predecessing quarterback right now? You know, they could even trade out of that pick. You know, so like them taking Kyle Pitts is pretty interesting. You know, Bengals taking Rashawn Slater makes sense. Makes way more sense than them taking Zach Wilson. Okay, Miami Dolphins taking Micah Parsons. See, so far a lot of these could happen, except for the Jets taking Jamar Chase. But the rest of these, yeah, could possibly happen. Probably not Penei Sewell at number 3. Probably be a quarterback. Now, Detroit Lions taking Zach Wilson. Best player available? Yeah. If Zach Wilson's sitting there at number 7, you're absolutely taking him. If you're the Lions. You know, you just had Matthew Stafford for what, like, I don't know, 12 years? 11 years, something like that? Get Zach Wilson, you have another good quarterback for another 10, 15 years. Carolina Panthers would take Devontae Smith. Yeah, that could work. Broncos taking Jalen Waddle. Loading up on more wide receivers. They would have 4 or 5 good receivers and no quarterback. Actually, Drew Lock's not that bad. I actually like Drew Lock. I don't understand. He really hasn't had a chance yet. He's been banged up. He's got a crappy offensive line. He's had 2 different offensive coordinators already. Cut the guy a break. Get him a freaking offensive line, right? All right, so Dallas Cowboys, Patrick Surtain. That actually fits. That works. That's probably going to be their pick anyway. All right, Jets, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That works for them. They could use a interior linebacker. They could use somebody to roam around the field, make plays for them in the running game. And he's a good coverage linebacker. All right, so Philadelphia Eagles take Caleb Farley. That also works. They desperately need offensive weapons, but Caleb Farley, if he makes a full recovery and has not as much of a injury-riddled career in the NFL as he did in college, he could be a great pro. He really could. All right, Los Angeles Chargers take Elijah Vera Tucker. Totally makes sense there. Minnesota Vikings take Trey Lance. Yeah, that could work too. The Vikings like to do that zone running scheme, and I don't want to call Trey Lance a game manager, but he could definitely be one if you asked him to be. But he's probably more of an improviser because he can use his legs to make plays as well, and he's got a huge arm. He could definitely move around in that offense and make some plays for you. All right, New England takes J.C. Horn. That makes sense. Especially if some of these teams trade their players at these positions, like if Cousins gets traded, maybe they trade him to, I don't know, somewhere, Washington or whatever. The Vikings take Trey Lance and make him the day 1 starter. Could happen. Or they hold on to Trey Lance for a year, trade Cousins at the end of the season, go with Trey Lance in the future. I mean, these things could work. New England could be looking for a corner if they trade Stephon Gilmore. All right, Cardinals taking Trayvon Moehrig. That's already a pretty stacked safety room, but if they moved Isaiah Simmons to linebacker, which is what I really think they should do, Trayvon Moehrig would work out perfect because Budda Baker's a strong safety. Trayvon Moehrig's a free safety. That would work. If that's something they wanted to do, it's something they had a plan. Now the Raiders get Kwity Paye. Before they picked up Yannick Ngakoue, this would have been a great move. But honestly, it still could be a good move. If they take Kwity Paye with Yannick Ngakoue, Max Crosby, Clelin Ferrell, with those D tackles, I mean, it could be an upgrade at that defensive line. Use him as a rotational piece. He was used to that in Michigan. All right. Miami Dolphins take Gregory Rousseau. That could work. Edge was one of their needs. Washington football team gets their quarterback of the future, Justin Fields. The Chicago Bears get Mac Jones at 20. They didn't have to trade up for him. They took best player available, happened to be Mac Jones at 20. I'm really liking this so far. I mean, some of these honestly fit. We're getting to one that doesn't at all. All right, Colts take Kadarius Toney. That could work for them because, now they have Carson Wentz. They get him another weapon. They get him a gadget guy. He already has, Paris Campbell, Pittman. He has guys that can go out and make catches. You get him a gadget guy with those running backs that they already have there. That offense could be sick. Now, Tennessee Titans get Najee Harris if they took best player available. Najee Harris. Could you imagine Najee Harris with Derrick Henry? Holy crap. A.J. Brown would never catch any passes. They wouldn't even throw the ball. They wouldn't. 2 big, physical Alabama running backs on one team. Crazy. Crazy. That would be interesting, though. So the Jets would get Travis Etienne. That works. They get Travis Etienne and Jamar Chase in the first round. Honestly, that's not too bad. Except for they didn't get their quarterback. But they got 2 really good offensive weapons. I guess they're going with Sam Darnold now. Alright. So, Steelers would go Jalen Phillips. Edge out of Miami. That works too. I mean, we know the Steelers love to draft their defensive players high. Jacksonville takes Zaven Collins. That could work for them. You know, they need an anchor on that defense next to Myles Jack. That could work. Okay, so the Browns would take Azeez Ojulari. That could work. You know, they could be looking for edge in the first round. Tevin Jenkins to the Ravens. Especially if they move on from Orlando Brown Jr. They trade him away. Tevin Jenkins could be an option in the first round. New Orleans Saints take Jamin Davis. Another one that could work. You know, they could be looking linebacker in the first round. Green Bay Packers take Greg Newsome. That's plausible. You know, they've been looking for an opposite corner, Jair Alexander, for a while. So, Buffalo Bills take Christian Darrisaw. Upgrade on that offensive line. Maybe bump him into guard, keep him at tackle, whatever, right tackle. The Chiefs take Terrace Marshall. You know, they just keep loading up on wide receiver. They lost Sammy Watkins, so Terrace Marshall could work. And then Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton probably wouldn't play on that linebacking core because they have 2 of the best interior linebackers in the NFL. But whatever, that's how it worked out. This is my best player available mock draft based on Todd McShay's top 50 big board. Okay? It's not based on my big board. It's based on Todd McShay's top 50 big board. So, what did you think in the comments? This is a pretty interesting draft, actually. I wanted to do something new. It kind of gets monotonous for some people, seeing the same mock draft over and over and over. But BPA, best player available. What did you think? Put it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. I enjoyed doing it. It was pretty interesting. I'm a draft fan, so for me, this was pretty interesting. Alright, I am the Gridiron Guy, and I am out.